Hi, let's go through the answers to question 10, all about map J in your theme 14 booklet. This is the map, the cross section, and photograph J. Okay, the first question was to highlight any unconformities that you can find on the map and on the cross section. There are actually two unconformities here. We've got this one that I've highlighted in orange at the base of the breccia, and the one I've highlighted in blue at the base of the limestone. Notice how the breccia is dipping 10 degrees to the east, but the limestone is horizontal. If we put those on the cross section, you can see what I mean. There's the orange unconformity at the base of the breccia. See how it's continuous. And the blue one then at the base of the limestone, okay, which you can see doesn't appear close to point X because it's just a little bit too high. That unconformity has been eroded away close to point X. The second question I asked then was looking at the photograph and highlighting the unconformity on the photograph. We can see at the bottom of this photograph we've got these beds, these layers that are dipping to the south, and then we've got the breccia sitting on top. The boundary between them there, I've highlighted again in orange, that's our unconformity. Okay, let's think about how these form. So I gave you this set of cartoons to show how an angular unconformity actually occurs. The first stage is that we get the older beds laid down horizontally. Then those older beds can get folded or tilted by tectonic activity. They then get eroded away, and then younger beds get laid down horizontally on top. They might then be tilted themselves or folded in addition, but it'll always be different from the older beds beneath. Okay, let's try and put together the photograph and the map. Now, if we look at the photograph, we can see that the layers here are dipping towards the south. And it's clearly where we've got quite a fine-grained mudstone at the bottom of the photograph with the breccia sitting on top. So there's really two places on this map where that can be. It needs to be in one of these places where we see the mudstone and the breccia come together and where we're going to have a dip towards the south. So either of those two places I've indicated on the map would be a correct answer. We can also see, because we've got dips in different directions here, that we've got some folding going on. Let's put in some fold axes down the middle of them. Quite a few, there's some quite tightly folded beds here, and a whole series of antiforms and synforms. Notice how they're all parallel, which indicates they're all formed in the same event. If we now think about the sequence of events here, again organising things from oldest to youngest. In the middle of the antiforms there, we've got the conglomerate, so that's going to be our oldest bed in the older series, with mudstone sitting on top. The peridotite then is intruded into those two beds because it's metamorphosed them, so it must be younger than those beds. Also, the folding has occurred before that intrusion. We then have an unconformity with the breccia sitting on top of those folded beds and also sitting on top of the peridotite without it being metamorphosed. So it must have been laid down much later than the intrusion of that peridotite. And finally then the limestone sits on top of another unconformity above that because the limestone is horizontal. Now those of you that dug deeper, we'll have explored a little bit about why unconformities are so important. Unconformities are breaks in the geological record, and they're usually where some other big geological event has occurred, like a period of mountain building, for example, of tectonic activity, or something else has happened to stop deposition or even to cause erosion at that period of time. So they give us an indication of these big events. They also show us how geological time must be vast for these big gaps in time to take place. Remember James Hutton's work in identifying how important these unconformities are. Okay. If you've got any questions about any of this, please get in touch. I'll see you then.